the Chase Thomas Podcast, for people who have nothing but time to kill.
All right, we're back here on the Chase Thomas Podcast, where I am now joined by old friend Locked On Vols and Volquest's own Eric Cain. Eric, good afternoon, my friend. How are you?
I'm good, man. Appreciate you having me on.
Thank you for being here. So I hope you're ready, because Mike Wilson, Eric Cain, everybody's locking in Josh Heupel's first starting lineup, starting weekend rotation, everything else. I have a vendetta now. I'm at war, I guess, with Mike Wilson for keeping Chris Newstrom out of the starting lineup in his projected roster here that you can go check out on knoxnews.com, because I'm a big Newey guy. I don't know where you stand on Chris Newstrom, but it felt personal for Mike to have Chris Newstrom on the outside.
I'm sure you'll get into it, but like I don't know if you saw mine. I had Newstrom in the lineup.
Yes.
But it comes down, I think right now, like if Blake Grimmer is going to be in the lineup, then Newey's got to come out. If Ariel Antigua is your shortstop, and I know you'll ask me about this, Ariel had a great fall.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of leaving fall with Ariel at short. If Ariel's not at short, put Manny at short, and then Newstrom can come to the infield, and then it just kind of everything kind of fits a little bit better. So it's a good problem to have. I think Newstrom is obviously one of your best 8 in the field, but Blake Grimmer deserves to play. So I think they'll both play. But I had Newstrom as my starting left fielder leaving fall, but knowing Blake Grimmer will probably play there some too. And Blake Grimmer can get DH at bats and all that too.
Grimmer, the Grim Dog, is kind of the, I don't want to say the wrench, because I don't want to be a negative. Like, Blake Grimmer can hit. I think he's an important bat in this lineup, but it does make it kind of complicated, right? Like, I think Ariel makes it complicated in some ways where he fits if he wins one of these jobs. I think Ariel, to your point, like, I really respect Ariel for sticking around and sticking through this and continuing to fight. Like, I think that's one of the cooler stories, if it does end up working out for Ariel this year in particular, is that, like, he was a highly touted prospect. We thought he might go to the draft, which feels like forever ago. He arrives on campus, and he's never been able to carve out a consistent role. Obviously, the hitting is still coming along, but like you said, he's hit really well this fall. And he just was like, there's no guarantees. Like, he came back for another year where there's still no guarantees. And there were guys on this past roster who left for more guaranteed opportunities, and that's fair. And there's no shade or anything towards that. But it's like, it is a great story that Ariel is continuing to try and make it work at Tennessee. Like, Ariel, we know about the defensive upside and everything else. I mean, he starts hitting. It doesn't mean he has to be mashing. He doesn't be SEMO in the middle, in the top of the order, but he does need to hit better than what we've seen consistently at this point to stay as an everyday guy in the lineup. But I mean, I'm not betting against Ariel. I think he is. I do appreciate, I guess, how much he is pushed and continue to like try and make this work, because I think it's hard, and I think he deserves a lot of kudos, because like I think you're the same wavelength here, which is he's not guaranteed to be a starter in 2026, but he does have a good shot.
He has an excellent shot. Again, if they were playing a game tomorrow, he would be my starting shortstop. And it's kind of funny, like all the talk about Ariel coming out of high school, and he always had the glove. Like, that was, I mean, once you got to see it, it was like, oh man, he really does have a glove.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of offense. Like, he was a great hitter, and came here, had a hand injury, sidelined a little bit, and of course came on there midway through his freshman year and started doing some good things. And last year, he obviously got a whole lot of run, on the left side of the infield at points in times throughout the year. And I think the errors kind of trickled up a little bit on an everyday basis. Like, he'd make a great play, then he'd make a bonehead play, and that's got to kind of level out a little bit. But my point is, he's always been considered a pretty decent hitter. We just haven't seen that here at Tennessee. Saw it here in the fall. I mean, I think Elander was quoted to us on Sunday when asked about Ariel. He's like, hey, we were joking around the other day, like kind of laughing. It's like the first 2 weeks of fall camp. It's like, have you even gotten out yet? Like seriously, he was on base almost every time. So that was good. I think that was a big fall for him. Him obviously for the coaching staff to see that, hey, he can do this on a consistent basis. But you got to do that again in winter, and you got to do that leading into the spring. And then ultimately, if you get a job, you got to continue doing that and hang on to it. So with him at shortstop, again, that kind of complicates things for the rest of the guys, and that's a good problem to have. Like I said, if Ariel's not in there, it's easy to say Manny Marin's your shortstop. You can bring Newstrom in and play second, or Manny could play third, and Newstrom could even play short. Like, my point is, it kind of fits easier with Ariel not in there, but the fact that he's in there making the tough decisions, it makes the team deeper. And obviously, you've got a very skilled defender that's got a whole lot of range. If Henry Ford is your starting third baseman, a guy that's never played third base at this level, Ariel kind of helps with that range as well. So, I'm excited to see if he opens the year as the starting shortstop, and certainly want to see if he can continue hitting.
I think it's interesting because last year you obviously had a couple true freshman starters, right? You had Manny Marion, you had Levi Clark. You had different guys that were factors in the lineup as true freshmen and got a taste for, and Jay Abernathy too. We thought Jay Abernathy coming into last year was going to be a potential top of the order guy, like we thought he was going to have a much bigger role before the season than he ended up having for Tennessee in 25. You don't have anybody in your 3-2-1 outline of a true freshman and the number one class coming in that is projected to be a starter. If you had to pick one to get the most amount of starts of the true freshman based on what you saw this fall, who would it be? Because it's going to be somebody. I maintain one of these true freshmen is going to factor in more than maybe we thought coming into the year.
Well, I like the pitching, and a lot of those guys are going to pitch. Again, Tennessee is rebuilding its pitching staff. Only a couple of guys returned. What was it? 5 guys returned from last year's squad, and you're pretty much remaking that entire bullpen. And freshmen are going to have to be a big role in that. I mean, obviously Cam Appenzeller, he'll challenge for starting innings, but I think right now he's probably going to be a high leverage or a couple innings a weekend guy, or I think he could do both. He could be a midweek starter, and I think moving forward with the rosters the way they are, those midweek games, you're going to need more of a true start, unlike kind of how Tony and Frank Anderson have been doing in years past, where they, the starter pitches 2 innings and they just go inning by inning, sometimes batter by batter there in the end, trying to get as much guys in there. So I think Cam Appenzeller certainly is going to play a big role for this team. A couple of those other freshman arms were really impressive. I think a guy that I just don't see a lot of opportunities for, but had such a great fall, was Hudson Chance. I mean, he had a really good fall, but you look at the outfield, it's okay, where's he going to play? And then it's like, well, could he get some at-bats as a DH? Okay, but there's 3 or 4 other guys that probably need to get more at-bats than he does. So that's unfortunate. Trent Grindlinger, catcher, I think is going to be a really good player. He played some corner outfield as well. I think there's a point in time where Tennessee could utilize his bat, and certainly, depending on what's going on, he could catch some too. So I'll go with Cam if I had to pick one. Coming into this whole thing, I'd probably say Ethan Moore. I think he'll be a good player. I just don't think he's ready right now. He's got a good bat. I think defense was kind of holding him back a little bit, and that's probably a great opportunity for him to come to college and prove on his defensive skills before re-entering the draft here in a couple of years. But to answer your question in a long-winded answer form, I would go Cam Appenzeller because I think he's going to pitch a lot of big innings for Tennessee, and he was a top 50 player per perfect game, and a guy that was kind of on the fence, is going to go sign, or is he going to come here? And he ultimately came here.
I hope they're throwing Uncrustables at Manny Marion every chance they get. I hope Coach Q is just whenever he sees Manny Marion, just throw another Uncrustable. When we saw that Oppo home run he had at the end of last year, it's like the power is potentially there. If he can add, I'm not saying he needs to be Jordan Beck out there, but we need a little bit more power out of Manny Marion. The talent is there. Obviously great defensively, and was figuring stuff out as a true freshman, playing a bunch for Tennessee last year. But I hope he's the guy where I'm just like, Coach Q, he's just throwing Uncrustables. Whenever he sees Manny Marion, just throwing Uncrustable. Because I just think if he can get some more power and build off some of that Oppo power he showcased last year, I think he's someone that's really interesting to me in 2026. Because could he be a star? Is he still going to be kind of a role player? I don't really know what Manny Marion's going to be. And because he's a 2-year guy, right?
Yeah, he's gone after this year. Yeah. He will be gone. I think he's certainly going to be more than a role player. I think he's going to be a starter. Again, depending on where Ariel is.
Yeah.
And Henry Ford for that matter. I'm leaving fall operating under the assumption that Ford's going to play third base. He can obviously play first, but I think that's going to be Levi Clark. He can obviously play corner outfield. I think he could certainly play left. But for a guy that turned down draft opportunities, came to Tennessee, what's going to enhance your Major League Baseball opportunities more? Playing left field, first base, or third base? Center field would have been something, but I think Jay Abernathy and honestly Garrett Wright is going to play some center field as well too. I think Jay's your starter there, and Jay's another guy that can play second base. Versatility is always a thing, but I think these guys, it's like versatility times 10 with this roster right now. People are like, well, no, but really, what's it come down to? I'm like, it could it could depend on this guy to this guy. I mean, true story. But Henry Ford, I think, can really help himself out and be more attractable playing third base. And I think he proved in the fall that he can do that. And, Chase, let's be honest, man. Like, we've had some great third basemen in the batter's box in recent memories. Not so much patrolling the hot corner. And Tennessee's won a whole lot of baseball games. So
yeah,
I'm not saying Henry Ford and his defensive he's going to be a liability there. I'm just saying that it's not the biggest obstacle to overcome him playing third base, having not played that before. But anyway, he's there. Manny Marin could play third potentially. I think Manny's certainly going to be a starter, going to be an everyday player. His versatility is key. He's going to play somewhere on that infield. And, hopefully he can hit for more, of a higher average and some of that power can come in because he will be going to the draft where Levi Clark and Jay Abernathy and some of those other – I believe Chris Newsom's a 2-year guy. I need to double-check on that. But there are a couple of these 2-year guys, but Manny Marin's one of them, and he's going to try to make the most of this season.
Yeah, well, I like it. Eric Cain. Final baseball one for you, though. Call your shot right now, November 13th, Eric Cain. Tennessee's best hitter.
How far they'll make it?
Well, say it again.
Like in terms of how far they'll make it?
Oh, no, I haven't even asked the question yet.
Go ahead.
I like that. You don't even know what the question is yet, Eric Cain. You're getting ahead of me here a little bit. Like, here's the question. Call your shot now. Tennessee's best hitter in 2026 will be who based on who you saw in the fall? Like, when it's all said and done, we're going to say the best hitter was this person.
I've been answering this question to the point by saying Ford, but I don't think you go wrong with Ford or Levi Clark. Levi Clark hit the crap out of the baseball this fall. I mean, just bullied it. And so did Ford. I'm going to go Ford. I think Blaine Brown is in this conversation.
And that's your 2, 3, 4, right? Probably.
Yeah, that's my 2, 3, 4 without a doubt. Blaine Brown at 2, Ford at 3, Levi at 4, hitting cleanup, and then 5's interesting. I think Blake Grimmer, if he's in the lineup, could be a really good 5. I'm going to go with Ford. I think Ford's kind of got the total package at the plate, but I think this is going to be a breakout year for Levi.
I like that. And it should be a new bit for Tennessee baseball.
What?
They just, because Ford out of nowhere is just going to end up at third base, it looks like. It's just like, it's a rule. It has to be a big time transfer. Yes. Has to play third base for Tennessee baseball every year. It's just, that's the new deal. And Andrew Fisher obviously would have been there last year without injury. So let's just keep that going. Like, this is the requirement. Like, if you want to play baseball at Tennessee, you have to be a big time transfer and be our third baseman for 1 year.
Hey, it's a pretty good line to fall in because there's been some really good ones here lately. So if I was a transfer, I'd be like, sign me up. Let's go.
Maybe we can call it like the Trey Lipscomb Memorial here, because it's like he was the long-term guy and waited his turn. And that's just not common in today's baseball, where it's like, you'll never have another Trey Lipscomb waiting his turn to be the everyday third baseman for Tennessee.
And you'll never have one that's as skilled with a glove like Trey Lipscomb was. So good. So
love Trey Lipscomb.
Yeah.
When you look at New Mexico State, y'all were talking about this on the Volquest mailbag here this week. People can go check out over there at volquest.com. And I thought it was interesting in terms of just the freshmen and who needs to play in that conversation. But I want to ask you, Eric, like, who do you think among the Tennessee true freshmen needs the reps the most against New Mexico State based on reps they've gotten to this point in the year, and that this is probably their last opportunity to showcase anything to the staff until the season concludes here?
Man, you can go a number of different ways here. Let me go, again, a number of different ways. I think Austin maybe threw his name out there. Maybe it was Brent, and I think it makes a whole lot of sense. And this is the guy that no one's going to lead off with. Bennett Warren, tackle. Because here's the thing, when you go into this offseason, and we assume, maybe that's not going to be the case, but working under the assumption that Lance Hurd's going to go to the NFL. You have David Sanders coming back, Jesse Perry, who can play tackle. Then you have Bennett Warren. Could Bennett Warren be your starting one of those tackles? Maybe. At minimum, he would be your third tackle. And, you got to have 3 tackles that can absolutely play. So if you're Bennett Warren, you're probably sitting here like, man, I kind of hold some cards here. Like, I can maybe go ask for a raise, essentially, because they need me. But also, you want to get up there and you want to start, and you want to be the best football player you can be. And he just hasn't played a whole lot of football. So I would love to see Bennett Warren get in there at one of the tackles, with the first group in the first half. I would love to see DeJuan Morris run the football behind the first team offensive line, because Yes, we know about Bishop, we know about Lewis, we know about Starr. Those guys are going to get a whole lot of run, no pun intended, against Florida and Vanderbilt. Morris is not. But I would like to see Morris behind that first group offensive line, not the second or the third. I like to see GMAC, throw to some good receivers. I like to see GMAC, operate behind a good offensive line. Beggars can't be choosers. But I would say Bennett Warren, because I think Tennessee needs Bennett Warren in some way, shape, or form. And I think this game is, and I'm not saying Bennett Warren's going to the portal, but I'm just saying this game is a great opportunity to kind of show some love to those guys. Like, hey, we believe in you. We want you. You're in our future plans. Go out there and play in the second quarter. Go out there and play some snaps beside Wendell Moy or Jesse Perry or whoever. So I think the first one that comes to mind is Bennett Warren, but Marion Dye, Jaden Harmon, Rodarius Jackson, I've got a list right here. Deson Brame, who's gotten a little bit of a taste of the action. Like, those are some other guys that come to mind.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised we haven't seen more of the corners, like Trey Poteet or Dylan Lewis, or just to like try a little bit to see what you've got there. I am kind of curious what they do, because I don't know if you can go into next year with Gibson and Redmond being the projected starters, because part of like what makes Colton Hood really good and what made Jermod really good is they are interception turnover guys, and they are playmakers and like that confident play. And I don't think that's Gibson and Redmond. I think they're kind of similar in a lot of ways. I think there's a lot of similarities between the two of them. I'd like to see if there's someone on the roster at the like, is Trey Poteet more of that confident game, like who's going to make play? Like, I don't know if that guy's on the roster right now, if you're going to need to go. I think you're going to have to go in the portal for another quarter no matter what, with Hood and Jermod going to so it might all be moot. But I am curious about that, because I do think there is some overlap in play style between Ricky and Ty. So I would be curious on that front. But I mean, I didn't think the Bennett Warren thing is sneaky important, because I think you're probably in the same boat as me, is like, you don't want to be looking for a tackle in the portal. Like, tackles, most teams' best tackles aren't leaving for the portal. Like, the Lance Heards of the world are a rarity, where you kind of lucked into that one. He wasn't even
a starter. Yeah.
Right. He was blocked by 2 5-stars. Like, you're not, those guys are traditionally not in the portal. You don't want to be in a situation where Tennessee has been in the past, where they're kind of like, hey, we just got to take a body sometimes, or something like that, to just, you don't want to be in that spot. And if Bennett Warren, who's a blue chip guy that you evaluated a couple of years ago that you liked, who I assume you thought could be one of your starting tackles down the line, this is an opportunity to give him a shot outside of those post extra points for Tennessee. Like, this is a real opportunity for him. So I think I agree with you, because the best version of Tennessee in 26, I think, is Warren and Sanders as your tackles, and Perry on the inside at guard, where he was working also. Like, that's a really clean fit and a lot of continuity that you would prefer. Continuity is really good across the offensive line, as we've seen the last couple of weeks, where so many different people moving around. Like, part of me wonders just how much of that has played into the pass protection and rushing attack issues of Tennessee's offensive line. Because that's been one of the weirder parts about this season, is that the offensive line's kind of regressed here down the stretch.
Played much better defenses, and also played much better fronts. Alabama, Oklahoma, golly, man. Oklahoma was good. But yeah, you're right. I mean, they entered that Alabama game tied with Vanderbilt with 4 sacks given up in the SEC for the SEC lead. And now they're at like 13, I think, which is still a very respectable number. They give up 4 against Alabama. They give up 4 against Oklahoma and 1 against Kentucky. 13, that's math. You got me thinking about this, man. Like, I've been so like focused on this season, even during the bye week and even during New Mexico State week. I've started looking ahead a little bit, but this offensive line's got a chance to be really special, because you do bring back Sanders, you do bring back Perry. Pendleton is still going to be here. You're going to lose Moy, I think.
I think Moy's back, or he might be back.
No, I think you're right. I think Moy is back. Regardless, you got him, and then Sham. Sham's played a ton.
Yeah.
Maybe Sham wants to go to the portal. I don't know. But like, you have a chance to be really good on the offensive line. And I'm intrigued about Perry, because Perry was going to play guard the entire time. Man, he was the talk of fall camp. He was going to be your starting guard. Everybody couldn't stop talking about Jesse Perry. And then the morning before you play Syracuse, you bump him out. And gosh, man, Jesse Perry looked great at right tackle. Jesse Perry played good tackle against the Georgias and Mississippi States and some SEC level competitions, no doubt. And then you slide Jesse Perry inside. And I'm not saying he's been bad, but like, he was so used to playing at a high level at tackle. But you got to make room for David Sanders. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but You slide Perry back inside. Now, I feel like we haven't got a true look at Jesse Perry on the inside. I do think Tennessee's better with him on the interior. I don't think they've showed it yet. But I do think moving forward, yeah, like Perry next year with Sanders and Warren or whoever, I think that's really, really interesting. Plus, again, Pendleton and maybe Moy, Sham. I mean, gosh, that offensive line's got a chance to be really good. I mean, Tennessee's going to have a new starting at quarterback. We think, right? We think. I mean, unless there's a year we don't know about, or a court challenge or something, they're going to be blessed behind a really good offensive line.
It's interesting you say that, because I wanted to ask you about the quarterback part of this, Eric. And this is something that I think fans look. Joey's been awesome. I appreciate all. Joey's been a lot of fun. He's made Tennessee's offense fun again in a lot of ways. But I think fans have to continue to I think we all have to continue to I don't know how I can best frame this, where you can't look at bowl games the way you used to. Like, bowl games are exhibitions. I would look at them as the same as preseason games. Like, we are now in the playoff or bust. Like, when we go to 16, it's just, they don't matter. And I grew up on bowl games. I love bowl games. It doesn't matter. And it's one of those with just the opt-outs and everything. And I'm like, that's fine. Like, I'm okay with all of that. But you're going to go into next year. We're assuming it's going to be a George versus Faison 9-month battle in the offseason. I just think you have to try George. Like, if you're assuming Jake's not going to be around, and that's tough for me as a former commander in the Merklinger men. But I think you kind of, because the game does not matter. It doesn't matter how big of the bowl game it is. Like, if you have an opportunity to get a long look at George in that bowl game and just to kind of see where he's at in your development and how much, he's a little bbit more ahead than we thought because we haven't given him much in-game action, or he kind of impresses. It gives you some momentum going in the offseason, this, that, and the other. But it also, I think you have to try George, but I also understand, Joey's been great this year. If Joey wants to play, you should let Joey play. But as they're part of you, it's like, we appreciate that you want to play, but you can't look at this as a real game. Like, we got to think about the future and everything else. I don't think there's the right answer. It's not I'm not going to throw my hands up either way, but there is a part of me that's like, we have to look at bowl games differently. Like, it's not a game. Like, it's not a real game. This is a showcase for next season. And Joey, we are assuming, is not going to be around for next season. So try George to see where he's at for a full game with the ones.
Yeah, but I don't think coaches think that way.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's logical. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying I don't think coaches think and operate that way at all. Let me ask you this. Now I'm rhetorical because I'm going to answer it. Did Nico starting that Citrus Bowl, do anything for him for the next year? I don't know if it did anything for him necessarily. It did something for me. I went through the entire offseason okay, yeah, this guy can play. I've seen it. I've seen him put 4 quarters together against a pretty stout defense. It made me feel better. But I don't necessarily know, how much better Nico was for getting that one game.
Sure.
I'm also intrigued to know, Faison's going to come in. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait to see what he's all about. I like George. George's got to put on some weight. I like George a lot. But, say Merck leaves or you're down a quarterback in that room, you're going to have to go get somebody. And so, I've been talking about this on my show all week long. This is a bigger topic of conversation. And I'm not saying you don't try to go get the Faisons of the world or the Nikos of the world, right? But look at all the teams that are being successful right now. Outside of the college football playoff rankings the other night, all right? 25 teams, 16 of those teams have transfer starting quarterbacks. The national championship game last year, two transfers at quarterback. Heisman Trophy winner, a transfer at quarterback last year. Is there something? I'm not saying you go out and pay $4 million and get Carson Beck. I'm just saying, can you just go add to create competition? Austin Simmons was the starter at Ole Miss all offseason. Chambliss comes in as a guy to compete. Look at him now. I don't know. I don't think there's a right or a wrong answer. I think that if somebody leaves, Tennessee will have to get a quarterback. But for the future, I'm very much in the camp of go to the portal, go portal shopping. Because think about it, your team right now, we talked about that offensive line. Defensive line should be pretty stout. Linebackers got to take a step because they're filled with a lot of good players. Ty Redmond's going to be only better for everything he's gone through this year. Ricky Gibson's coming back. Go get a couple of safeties in the portal. You should be able to field a really good team next year. say you go add a 2-year starter at quarterback. Now, maybe not the SEC, maybe at a group of 5 or whatever. I don't know, man. I think that's something to explore for sure. And again, I know you were talking about bowl games here, but I kind of went off that tangent. But what do you think about that? Like, I think it's a really interesting debate. And I think that it can be different for each program. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. And I do think that there can be, like the Ole Miss route, I think there's an opportunity for both. Go sign someone from high school that you really like. Go to the portal, bring in somebody, go compete.
No, I think it's a fair thing to weigh. I mean, I don't think there's a right answer to this because, look, I mean, DJ looked ready to go until he wasn't. Like, this has been a season from what from him, but he was 6-1 as a starter last year, and his only loss was he left with a lead in the Florida-Georgia game. So how much of that was just DJ regressing this year, or how much it was just the coaching staff and everything around him just really failed him and it messed him up, or how much of it was the mysterious injury stuff that was going on in the spring. So it's like that looked like that was going to be a home run until it wasn't. Gunnar Stockton obviously waited his turn. I think there's nothing wrong with going internally on the blue chip guys if you're going to give them time. Like, but those are rarities, right? Like the Gunners and the Ty Simpsons who wait for so many years. The Marcel Reeds, I think you look at and you're like, well, that was just kind of, you had a big time blue chip roster and it all fell into place. But I mean, you're seeing the Art struggles, and he sat for a much longer amount of time than anybody probably would have assumed him coming out of high school that he would. So I understand that, but I also think like Lenora Sellers, his best season was last year as an underclassman, and he's regressed as an upperclassman, and we thought he might be a number 1 overall pick. And my thing with what Tennessee should do in terms of transfer or in-house and going super, super young, because they're going to go super young, either true freshman or redshirt freshman. And I think we're both in the same, like, I don't think Tennessee's going to get a big-time transfer quarterback. I think they're going to see what happens here with Faison versus George. But it's a risk because
might not be a big one. They need to get somebody, though.
But I mean, it's a risk because you're seeing around the sport, and like what you just talked about with the portal and teams who traditionally do well, like, the reason Michigan, I think, was able to handle it more than other teams, like the Big Ten, it's just not as arduous of a schedule. Like, yeah, you're playing 9 games. You can kind of hide JJ McCarthy for a while. Like you have this elite running game. You have this elite defense. You have a lot of NFL guys around him to make his life easier. So JJ McCarthy wins it all as an in-house 5-star guy, but they never put too much on JJ's plate, right? And that was smart. Like Harbaugh and their staff handled that really well. But to me, when it comes to quarterback and what they're going to do, the problem I guess the potential landmine I see with this strategy that they're probably going to do next year is that you're going to 9 games. The schedule is harder next year than it was this year. I think you have to, like, it's almost like you need a meeting with the fan base. Like Heupel needs to have like a press conference where it's like, we're going with George or Faison, and we're going 7-5 or 8-4 next year. And like, I need y'all to not put me on the hot seat because I'm playing a super young quarterback, because young quarterbacks don't win in this league. And that's just part of the deal. And it might be a true freshman in Faison who left the season after the first game of the season. Like, he's been gone all year. He hasn't played any football. So it will be like a full calendar year before he's played a football game, basically, if he wins the job outright. So I don't know, man. Like, that's my thing, is like Heupel, it will be a testament to how comfortable he is in his job security if he goes true freshman, redshirt freshman, because that's a play of like, we're playing the long game here, and I'm willing to take some losses here in 26 to be ready. Because I've always said 27 is the year that Tennessee should be contending for a national title based on how they're recruiting, where certain guys will be in their development, David Sanders and company being in year 3, ready for the NFL draft, because a lot of it you have to time with NFL draft opportunities where you could have like 5 to 6 guys in the first 3 rounds. If you look at Tennessee, if they develop the way you and I think they might be able to, then they should have a pretty healthy amount of NFL draft picks in 27. So for me, that's my worry, is the fan base is not, you know, the general's quarters. Like, I do worry about going this route and going 7-5, 8-4, even if that's the most realistic. And I think it's fair going with that young of a quarterback in this 2026 schedule, but it's really fascinating to me.
Yeah, I mean, everybody starts as a freshman at some point. Like you begin your journey, you're a freshman. Like, no one's just jumped up and started college as a junior seasoned quarterback. So like, and again, I want Faison here. I can't wait to see him play. Like, I'm excited. I just feel like in where college athletics is right now, and where the portal era, name, image, and likeness, and your ability to go and heavily resource some player out of the portal and come here and play. I just think that there's no time to go 8-4 and 7-5. Like, I hear you. Again, it's logical. Like, we're playing the long game here. We're going to play this young guy. Like, he's going to go through some ups and some downs and all that. But the fact of the matter is, you just don't have time for that. Like, again, like.
Well, I think you do if you have the support from your administration.
Yeah, and I'm not saying the administration doesn't support Josh Heupel if he were to do that, but
yeah.
I mean, you know as well as I do, the fans would have no time for that. No, 7-5, unacceptable. And I mean, I think that's unacceptable.
I mean, if they go Faison or George, like, and with the schedule, I mean, I'm leaning towards 7-5 next year.
Yeah, I mean,
and I don't think it would be a bad year. I think they still might, like. This is you have to readjust to how the new world and the 9-game schedule and what this looks like. Like,
I think the whole, and again, I spent a lot of time on it this week because New Mexico State. I think the whole quarterback conversation for next year is just so intriguing because, like, you want your future to be Faison. You like George MacIntyre right now. Neither one of those guys are ready. Will they be ready after spring? I don't know. Like, probably not. Like, I mean, George has literally got to put on some weight, man. Like, he's got to get bigger. I mean, this is a big boy league. I mean, Nico still looks super skinny, but he showed up at like 188, 180, maybe 185, and he played as a starter in this league at like 211. Excuse me.
He put on weight. You saw it.
Yeah. He put on, still slender, but he got about 210, 211.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, like, there was a dedication there, and George has got to find that as well, which I'm sure he will. But I don't know. I think it's super intriguing, and I think that going to the portal is not a bad thing. And but again, this era, you go to the portal, like, that's already happened once with George. That was like Tennessee couldn't handle. I mean, that wasn't Tennessee's fault. That was Nico's fault. They had to go to the portal, but you had to go get another guy. You don't want to scare anybody off. I don't know. I just think it's really intriguing. And so, having said all that, I hope we see George play a ton this week. I would play George first, but they're going to play Jake Merklinger first because he's the backup quarterback. And, I mean, I would be shocked if they didn't. But I want to see a lot of George MacIntyre because I think that he can contend and be a legit starting quarterback candidate for Tennessee in 2026.
That battle is going to be super fascinating because people, and it's like Faison, and Faison's mobility makes me think he could have more success as a young player in the system, where if things break down, his progressions aren't there, where it's like he'll bail and he has that ability to pick up yardage and make things work when he's still getting acclimated, And George is heck of an athlete too, but I'm curious because I mean, I do think the weird part about him not playing basically his entire senior year, I wonder if that affects anything for him.
It might. I mean, you're still developing, even if you're not in college and in a collegiate
every rep matters.
Yeah, every rep matters. You're still developing. You're still playing. You still got live bullets. So that's not like that's something that's helping him right now. So
he's lost one game as a starter at Grimsley ever. I think he's lost one game.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
very different experience than what George was going through.
Yeah, George was like the Jerry Garantano of high school. He had a couple of different head coaches, different offense every single year. We had Brentwood Academy at Catholic his senior year, and it was like the George versus Tyreek King show. And MacIntyre make a big throw, and the next series up, King would have a big catch. I mean, it was just pinball back and forth. It was so much fun. But I think, and you said it a moment ago, I think one of George's, and I thought this with Nico as well, I think one of the best attributes for those styles of quarterbacks, their escapability. I think George is really good on the run. I think keeping the eyes downfield and scrambling when you need to, but when something breaks down, escapability, I think that's going to be a plus for George as well. But when you get hit, it's going to hurt, so you need to pad up a little bit.
We'll leave it there. Eric Cain, what can the good folks check out from you and the team over at Volquest and Locked On Vols this week?
Yeah, tons of stuff. Again, we had this quarterback conversation. I did a complete 30-minute show talking to myself, so that was riveting stuff on the quarterback conversation for next year. That was earlier this week over at Locked On Vols. But yeah, we're gonna preview and talk and speculate, and then we're gonna watch, and then we're gonna react and talk about what happened, all that and more for the Tennessee New Mexico State game. And then it is Florida week, so big week coming up. Throw the records out the books, going down in the swamp. Plays Tennessee's not won since 2003. Who's going to be the quarterback for Florida? Maybe this weekend will be an indication there. Lots going on over at Volquest.com. Recruiting all the time. Basketball season's here, so don't miss out. $1 for your first 7 days at Volquest.com.
I love it. Eric Cain, keep up the great work, my friend, and we'll have to check back in again very soon.
Thanks so much, man.
Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas Podcast. Hell yeah.